The liberation of women in socialism. In the Paris Commune, the first worker state, pioneering laws for the liberation of women were enacted and realized. However, the October Revolution in Russia became a worldwide signal of the powerful driving force that socialism represents the women's liberation, and on how the struggle for women's liberation propels the building of socialism. Socialism confronts the centuries-old oppression of women in reactionary class societies and their patriarchal structures. In socialism, women's liberation follows the realization of, quote, "one who oppresses others cannot free themselves," end quote. Friedrich Engels stated in Anti-Dühring, quote, "Society, of course, cannot liberate itself without liberating every individual," end quote. This guiding principle was promptly followed by action in the Soviet Union. Just a few weeks after the October Revolution, a revolutionary family law declared marriage a private matter. A simple state recognition replaced the formally mandatory religious ceremony. Divorce law granted women the right to separate from their husbands without their consent. Children born outside the marriage were given the same legal status as those born within. Parents received joint custody, children's rights were strengthened, and corporal punishment was banned. Women were granted the same property rights as men. In the new criminal code, the punishment for abortion and homosexuality was abolished. Prostitution was prohibited, and prostitutes were given opportunities for vocational training. Special protections and privileges for women, especially for mothers, were introduced in factory work. Under the slogan, quote, "for a new way of life," end quote, initiatives began to establish cafeterias, laundries, communal living facilities and nurseries in increasing numbers, with the goal of socializing household work and paving the way for a gradual dissolution of the nuclear family as an economic unit. The inclusion of women in the workforce not only boosted economic growth, but was also a crucial material condition for self-confident emancipation and real social equality for women. However, the traditional family order was far from overcome. Progressive legislation and various economic and political improvements alone cannot overnight break the traditional chains of bourgeois and feudal morality inherited from patriarchal exploitative societies. Given the deeply rooted religious and feudal conditioning, even among the masses, these advances were sometimes outrightly abused. Through a comprehensive women's movement, organized and empowered by a delegate system and mass discussions, significant efforts were made to ensure these achievements did not only remain on paper. There was a systematic struggle for socialist consciousness on the necessity of women's liberation, as well as for the material prerequisites for it within socialist development. In 1936, in response to the fascist threat and the need to unite the country for the Great Patriotic War, the CPSU relinquished the important gains in women's liberation. The role of women and socialist lifestyle was redefined. Policies on women focused primarily on increasing birth rates, and women's consciousness was directed towards motherhood and caring for men. This objectively promoted petty bourgeois family relations and hindered the free development of women. Socialist China in the era of Mao Zedong was able to draw lessons from the experiences of the Soviet Union. In China, starting conditions for the majority of women were initially even more difficult. In the first family law of 1950, it was necessary to first establish monogamy for men, which had previously permitted polygamy, to ban child marriages, and to enshrine the right to freely choose a partner and divorce. Mass debate and persistent persuasion were necessary to achieve later marriages, and a reduction in the numbers of children per family, to enable women and girls to pursue independent careers and to make their own decisions about their life. A young woman from the village of Liulin shared with the Swedish photographer Gon Kessle about the struggle of women for active participation in social life and political decisions. Quote, "Previously, girls' feet were bound so tightly that all adult women became crippled, barely able to move forward. It was a long, hard struggle to free our feet. But freeing people from their crippled ideas takes much longer and cannot be achieved in a day or with just one decision. For a long time, men would say they couldn't look after the children because they had no breasts. After all the big debates during the revolution, they won't say it out loud, but I believe many still think this way deep down. We still need many more and much longer debates."